But if you're genuinely hungry and you have chewing gum, you will be even more hungry very fast.
Hi guys, this is Parvez again and welcome to the part 2 of my podcast with James Largey. Yes, so we were talking about the transformation and the diet and the training, but that's one of the biggest problem that I faced during my transformation process is digestion, and you helped me through it. So I'm sure there are a lot of people who are struggling with digestion and they don't even realize it. So how do I know if I have any digestive stress?
Very good question, especially if you don't realize it. That's a tough one. Yep. What I would typically say is when a client comes to me, as you did, frustrated with the fact you're not getting no gains, you're not getting no leaner or whatever it may be, very knowledgeable, but still not seeing the results that you should be seeing, then I will question other avenues as opposed to just progressive overload and calories in, calories out. I need to investigate further. So my suggestion would be to complete a food log. And if you recognize there is certain food, inflammatory based food or high FODMAP based food, and you're eating that food every single day, which you were, then remove that food for a period of time, then reintroduce it maybe 1 week later and see what happens. Once you remove a specific food for a period of time, you allow the healing process to happen with whatever it is that needs to happen. If you introduce it too soon, you will feel the effects of that food in particular, especially if you have any sort of allergy or intolerance to that food, and you will respond way worse than what you did before. So for me, there's a good thing to that and a bad thing. The bad thing is you've got an issue. The good thing is you at least now know what the issue is, and it's associated with that food at this moment in time. So my suggestion would be to remove any irritating based foods that you're aware of that cause bloating, digestive distress, constipation, diarrhea, brain fog, any of these foods. For me, I know when I eat a lot of dough based foods like pizza, breads, I tend to get brain fog a lot, especially the next day. So if I'm aware of that, I can remove it in times when I need to see results, but I will definitely never eat that type of food when I've got things that I need to think about. I made that mistake this morning, and now I'm going to pay the price for it. So I may be a little bit sluggish to come to the answer, but I would like to say with the experience that I've got and with the knowledge I've got, I can bail myself out. But I would never put myself in that position if I'm looking for a physical transformation. I don't want to eat pizza and then go in and train legs. I'll be inflamed, I'll have digestive distress, and I may even get injured.
And maybe that food is categorized in a more healthier food, you can still get a lot of negative effect. In my case, egg whites and chicken was the worst enemy that I had, and I was eating it for a few years every single day in a good amount. And when I found out that I get inflammation response to it, and I was like, fuck. I was screwed at that time.
Vegetables could be one as well.
Yeah. And right now I'm having chicken again. I'm feeling fine. So I think taking a break and reintroduce after a few months, maybe it can resolve the problem. But it's not necessarily that only the food that is unhealthy that cause any kind of inflammation, but it can be healthier food that you're having on a regular basis.
For sure. If you're struggling to see results and you go, I'm doing everything right, I'm eating clean, which you were to some degree, if you want to call it that, they would chicken, rice, fruit, vegetables, they would fall under the society's clean banner or category, right? But it doesn't matter what food it is. It could be the cleanest, healthiest food, but if you've been having exposure to that food during the most stressful time of your life, and you continue to have exposure to that food, then typically that's when you build up an intolerance or an allergy to that food. That is a problem now. You need to remove it, you need to repair or fix the issue, and then reintroduce it later on. Do I have a problem with it anymore? If the answer is no, then cool, you can keep it. If you do, you need to remove it. There is no point, because it's holding you back. It's not helping you in any avenue or area of your life, other than maybe the momentary satisfaction of having it. That's where I stand with it.
Yeah, so with the digestion, there are a lot of things to consider. If you go into this, it's gonna take the whole day to discuss it. So quickly want to go through all of this. So it starts from your mouth. So your teeth health, how important it is.
Yeah.
How important it is.
So basically, it starts even before the mouth. It starts with what you look at. It starts with your smelling, your senses, you touching of the food. So when you eat food fast, when you have not cooked the food, you've not been around the food, you've not touched it, you've not smelt it, you've essentially skipped something called the cephalic phase of digestion, which is when you secrete digestive enzymes in the mouth and you put yourself in a primal position to be able to start digesting that food that you're about to consume, right? If I wolf my food down very fast, I've not been around it, I've not smelled it, I've not touched it, my ability to digest that food is now impaired. So my first piece of advice would be to, whenever you are about to eat, first of all, get yourself in a relaxed state. Now you need to be aware of what environment that you're in. This is why I'm not a fan of eating in the same place that I work. Because where I work, I'm in a position of energy, fight or flight, right? I've got shit I need to get done. I'm not in a state of rest and digest. So if you work at home and you eat at home, you need to create a separate space for where you work and a separate space for where you eat. That's just the first thing, that's your environment. Your second thing that you want to do is you want to figure out what is going on with my physical body. Am I in a state of alert? Or am I in a state of rest and digest? If you are not and you want to get into that state as fast as possible, one thing you can do is just slow down your breathing. Just from that one breath alone, I feel relaxed already. Now I've improved my chances of digesting my food. How long did that take?
2 seconds.
Exactly,
3 seconds,
right?
yeah.
Now, the reason why people don't do it is because they're unaware of it. So try it today. When you eat your next meal, take a few deep breaths before. Be aware of what your environment is like. Is it a chilled out environment? Are you in good social a community? Are you sitting across the table from someone you've just had an argument with? That will put you in a state of alert. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The other things then that follow after that would be chewing your food. Now, we all know that we should chew our food. We just don't realize how important it is. So when you don't chew your food and large pieces of food go down into the stomach, good luck trying to digest it. Good luck hoping that that food, when it works its way through the digestive tract, does not cause any issues, especially with the lining of the gut wall. So I won't get into the possibilities of creating leaky gut, but you have to understand whenever you put large, undigested, unchewed amounts of food down your throat, you remove your potential to digest that food like you would have earlier. Yeah? And a great thing with the cephalic phase, just to kind of state how easy it is, how it works, is everyone who's listening to this now, I just want you, if you're not driving that is, or you're doing anything dangerous, just close your eyes for a second. You can try it too. Close your eyes. And what I want you to imagine is, most people can do this. I want you to imagine that you've got a big plate of French fries in front of you. And you've poured a load of salt and maybe even some vinegar all over those French fries. Now what's happened in your mouth?
It becomes watery.
Exactly. Now there is nothing that is in front of you right now, but your imagination, your thought process over that food with the salt and the vinegar, you begin to start the cephalic phase. Now that's really cool, because that now puts you in a better state of digestion. Does that make sense?
So we can do that if we have a very blunt chicken in front of us. We can just close our eyes and think about something delicious, and then we start eating. So that increased the possibility of digesting food.
Sure.
Wow.
Your thought process, what goes on prior to even eating, will impair or help your digestion. That alone. Now that's even without taking a digestive enzyme. You know, that's without considering what the food source is. You know, I'm just speaking about stuff that can be done and you don't have a penny in your pocket. I can smell food, that doesn't cost me anything. I can touch the food that I'm about to eat because it's already in front of me anyway. So physically touching it with your hands. I can see the food because I'm about to eat it. I can imagine what the food is going to taste like, which already secretes the saliva in my mouth. That doesn't cost anything.
I remember this one funny video I was watching that somebody was sniffing on Coke and then drinking water. It can actually work. Like, it was a funny video.
Some people, they just want a sensation or a taste, right? So I've known about people who are really thirsty, but they can't have that water, whether it be because of Ramadan or whether it be because they need to make weight for a boxing fight, and they will place a piece of ice in the mouth and spit it out. They've not actually drank the water, but the thought process behind it has allowed them to now be, okay, my mouth, I've had a drink, I'm in a place of, I've been refreshed. They've not actually physically drank it, and it gives them an extra hour, or it gives them an extra half an hour until fast opens, or until I jump on the scales. I've been waiting, now I can drink. You know, I put chocolate in my mouth, I taste it, and then I can spit it out, and then I've had the taste factor of it then. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying for people to do that exactly, but then we go to the question of what does chewing gum do to people? Right? Because I'm not eating anything, but I am chewing. The actual process of chewing also starts the digestive system. So if I'm chewing gum all day, what am I producing?
Digestive enzymes, yeah.
Digestive enzymes.
Through saliva,
Secretion
yes.
of digestion. Secretion of digestion is now begun, and it continues to happen. Now, if I have no food in my stomach to digest, then what might be the side effects of no food but a lot of acid? Gas,
Okay.
burping, acid reflux maybe, all of these things. More hunger, you know? So that makes you then kind of understand, okay, what is happening when something is in my mouth, you know?
Yeah, I thought chewing gum helps you to suppress hunger, but it can very well do the opposite thing, right?
100%. It can make you even more hungry, you know? It can start to secrete digestive enzymes. So here's the thing. Most people just like chewing something. They're actually not hungry. So chewing gum will work for that element. But if you're genuinely hungry and you have chewing gum, you will be even more hungry very fast.
Yeah, so in fat loss phase, chewing gum may not be the best option for you.
In fat loss phase, most people will have chewing gum for the number one reason why chewing gum exists, because the breath stinks of shit. You know, especially if you've gone keto or you've gone low carb or you're during Ramadan or whatever. I don't know if you can have chewing gum during Ramadan, is it? So the chewing gum typically is used for one reason, but you have to understand what the repercussions are of using chewing gum. You know, think about a cigarette. What do most people do? Most people do. When I stop smoking cigarettes, what tends to happen to my weight?
It goes up
It goes up, right? With most people. Now, why do you think that is?
because of the increase in level of hunger, and they're eating more.
The eating more, I would go more with the latter. Increased level of hunger, maybe nicotine might mitigate hunger, but it's this movement and having something in my mouth and managing my stress via a smoke. Now I can't do that. How may I manage my stress? Well, I might use masturbation, to manage my stress, or I might eat something like most people do. What do they eat? I've never known anyone go, I've had a stressful day, I can't wait to get home and eat broccoli. I've never heard that before. I've had a stressful day, I can't wait to get home and have chocolate, crisp, high calorific, low volume based food that I can have a lot of. Before you know it, I've shot my calories way over, and I've maybe even caused digestive stress. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It makes a lot of sense.
So it's always the stress management.
Yeah, so now from the cephalic phase. Now, the next thing I think most of the people are suffering from is their acid level in their stomach, acid reflux. That's I think people are failed to understand why it is happening, and now they are, instead of taking care of the level of acid they have in their stomach, they are now trying to suppress it even more. Now, what's your thought on this?
Now, my wife is a lawyer, so she's kind of taught me to be careful of what advice I give publicly. So I have to state now to the podcast, anything during this podcast I say, you need to seek professional advice. This is just my opinion. and I'm sure you would state the same as well. So that don't take my ass to court, basically. But this is what I would do with me, or I maybe would advise to a client once he's sought professional help. If he has acid or she has acid reflux, which I hear can be very common in Pakistan and the Asian community, which is also very common in England, common more specifically with what type of person? Chilled or stressed? Stressed person, okay? Now, whether they're stressed because of digestive issues, or whether they're stressed because of the husband's cheating on them, their boss is an absolute cock, their children are no longer listening, whatever it might be, all equates to the same thing, which is what? An increase of cortisol, an increase of stress hormone. Now, whenever cortisol is increased, that suppresses your ability to digest food. How does it do that? It lowers your potential to produce something called hydrochloric acid, HCl, in the gut. Okay? Now, from what we know, HCl enables successful digestion of protein. Yeah, specifically from meat or fish. Now, if I'm stressed, my HCl is decreased. Then I eat spicy chicken, is korma spicy?
We had kadai, by the way.
Whatever it is. I'm stressed. I eat a spicy chicken meal or a non-spicy. It doesn't really matter. Most people tend to get it with spicy, but I eat a curry, non-spicy even. But I don't have enough digestive enzymes in my stomach currently because I'm stressed. I'm eating in a high state of stress. Then what happens? My inability to digest that food, that's what it is. I'm unable to digest it the way I should. Then I go to bed, 1 hour, 2 hours later, what happens? Essentially, the acid that I have within my stomach, the very low amounts of acid, plus maybe even undigested food, starts to work its way back up. Now, when we have a sufficient amount of digestive enzymes in the gut, we have a valve. I think from the top of my head, I'm trying to run through my brain.
And the esophagus somewhere,
yes,
yeah?
the esophagus valve, right?
Yeah.
The esophagus valve, right? That will essentially close up. Yeah, when I don't have enough HCl, it doesn't close up because it recognizes, well, we've not got a lot of acid in the stomach right now. It doesn't really need to close. Therefore, we're not digesting food. However, we are trying to digest food. So it will stay open. Then I lie down, then the acid works its way back up. Now, here's the problem. Here's the bigger problem. You then go to the shop. I'm always having acid reflux, or the doctor, I'm always having acid reflux. What should I have? What do they give you?
Anti-acid medicines?
Anti-acid, which removes all acid, right? It neutralizes the acid that you do have. Now think about the next time you go to have a meal. Do you have the potential to have more acid now or less?
Less acid, much less.
Probably less, because you've suppressed it by having an anti-acid as well with your meal even, because I don't want to have this acid reflux thing. So it's a horrible cycle. What they really should, I can't say should, what I really should do in my position, if that is with me, I should have more acid, not an anti-acid. So I would therefore supplement digestive enzymes such as hydrochloric acid, which is very cheap, very easy to source. I'm sure you can get it in Pakistan.
Yeah, we have this betaine HCl here. I used it actually, and it really helped me a lot during when I was trying to fix my digestion.
Good.
Yeah, so it really helped me a lot, and I'm feeling much better right now. I have no acid reflux now.
Nice.
I used to have it, but I don't have any acid reflux now. Now, after that, when it goes through the stomach and it goes through the small intestine, that's where SIBO happened, right? Small intestine bacterial overgrowth. First, tell me what is it, and then we'll go in detail.
This one is going to be a tough one to explain without a whiteboard.
We don't have a whiteboard right now, but try to explain it in the simplest term possible.
Okay, so SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, is typically an overpopulation of bad bacteria in the gut. Not good. We have a mix of both. Just like population of the world, we have good people, we have bad people. Now, when you have an overgrowth of criminals, what do you think that environment is going to be like?
Toxic,
yeah, dangerous.
That's
essentially what happens in the gut. That's the most simplistic way I can explain it. I want there to be a harmonious relationship in the gut, just as I do in the world. Okay, these bad people will never be able to change that, but there's also good people. So when you have an overgrowth of bad bacteria, quote unquote SIBO, that is a problem, because now you have the world being ran by criminals. Well, that's probably what the world is run by anyway, but you get the idea, right? People are now going around causing mass murder, so on and so forth. So my goal is to essentially eliminate a large population of the bad bacteria to bring it back down to harmonious levels. And I will do that in a number of ways.
Okay, so we'll get into this solution later, but first thing is, how do we know that we have SIBO? Like, what are the symptoms? How do I understand my own state of my intestinal bacteria?
Typically it comes from food poisoning. It could come from pollution. It could come from an ingestion of uncooked food, a parasite.
But how do I know I have this?
You typically have the side effects of nausea, bloatedness, really foul smelling stools, a lot of gas, feeling fatigued a lot all the time.
Does it happen with the female before menstruation? Because a lot of female get bloated. I have a client who gained 5 kgs where before her menstruation cycle. So it was like 5 kgs, that's a lot of weight. And her stomach like comes out like that. So is it a SIBO effect or is it something else?
It would be hard to say, just based on the information you give me. I probably wouldn't say if it's the time of the month that causes that. It wouldn't be down to SIBO. It would be down to hormones.
Yeah, because there's a lot of hormonal fluctuation during that phase. So it can be stress, it can be SIBO, it can be a lot of stuff, so we can't really say anything.
What I would say is, if she can get her blood work done, have a look at what her estrogen, testosterone levels are like.
At that point of the phase, yes.
Just in general, just see what her estrogen like, even away from the phase as well. Then also question, is she taking an anti-pregnancy pill?
No.
If she was, and it's highly estrogenic, which is very common for women who don't want to get pregnant, or for women who don't want to experience period pains, I would tell them to stop taking it. Not get pregnant if they don't want to, but I'd tell them to switch it to a non-estrogenic based one. Or they can do other ways to not get pregnant. Maybe the male can be more responsible and he can use something when they, have sex. If that's allowed here as well, if it's halal or not. But for me, personally, it would be a hormonal based thing, could be a digestion based thing, but I would look at hormones first if that was a symptom that gets presented.
Now, after the SIBO, again, leaky gut is, I think I suffered from leaky gut as well, which took me about 6-7 weeks, I think, to work on it and get it fixed. How do I know that I have a leaky gut, and is there any symptoms? Like, I found out because the symptoms I was getting, and I told you, and that you said that is a possibility that I have a leaky gut. Now, for somebody, for the general population, how do they know that they have a leaky gut?
Okay, so when I speak about anything functional health woo-woo, the calories in, calories out crowd will be dying inside, because they just don't have...
A few names in my mind right now.
Yeah, they just don't have the belief or the connection or the understanding or the tolerance for the type of woo-woo talk. Now, when calorie in, calorie out crowd speak, the woo-woo functional health side cringe. So for me, I never say specifically you have leaky gut. I say there could be a possibility. If I have your stool test done and it comes back that you have a large population of bad bacteria in the gut, then it's obvious, it's been tested, and you do have SIBO. It does exist, and it is causing issues right now, quite obviously. When it comes down to leaky gut though, it is one of those things where unless I actually dive down your throat and go into and see if you actually have an open wound within your gut, I won't know. But for me, I don't care whether you've got it or you haven't. I just want to make sure that you no longer experience the symptoms of it. which may typically be bloating after a particular food. An allergy or a food intolerance may be an indication of an open wound within the gut. It may be, it may not be. But for me, as an educator now, and as a personal trainer for, going on 15 years now, I'm no longer attached to the exact of what it is. I'm more attached to how can I just get the result, without fucking them up. How can I make them better? I don't need to be right. I just need to make sure that I'm doing my job and getting a result. And when you have someone, it's the same thing with rehab. When you have someone who's injured and they're going to see every specialist, they don't care who's right, they just want to be fixed. So I apply that same thought process to every element of health, digestion, sleep. I don't care what it is, I'm just trying to fix the job without fucking you up or without making you attached to a certain method or way of doing things. Because I've been that guy. Well, just as you have, the calories in, calories out guy, I've also been the hormone guy. Oh, it's your hormones, nothing else, don't worry about your calories. I'm the what works guy now. That's what I am, and that's what I'm going to remain to be.
Yeah, no, now talking about fixing the current state what we are in, so what are the remedies that what's your approach towards fixing the health?
Okay, so idiot-proof remedies for someone who's like, I don't know what the fuck it is, I ain't got the money to pay for you, James. It could be SIBO, it could be digestive issues, it could be I'm stressed, it could be the cephalic issues, it could be I really want to masturbate but I can't, it could be anything, right? So what is my suggestions? Well, my suggestions is, first and foremost, is do the stuff that doesn't cost any money. Just start with breathing and chewing your food properly. If you no longer suffer with bloating, I've just saved you spending hundreds of pounds on supplements, hundreds of pounds on a professional, spending money to go and get advice from a professional. Just start with the free shit first. If that doesn't work, then you go up a tier. Unless you're in so much pain, so much frustration, or the timeline is so small that you require everything to be checked, double check, cross check, let's make sure we've got it right, fix it now, that's a different situation. So if you tell me just general advice, just start with the basics. It's not sexy, I know. Maybe just start with not drinking water during mealtime.
Yeah. A lot of people do that even before and after the meal, immediately before or immediately after the meal time.
So yeah, drink water 15 minutes before you start eating, 50 minutes after. That alone is going to help your digestion because you're no longer going to be diluting stomach acid. You're no longer going to be impairing your ability to digest food. Basic, right? But most people are not even be willing to do the basics unless they're in pain. And it tends to be you have to let people get in a state of pain before they're willing to make a change. Yeah? Pain is the number one motivator with anyone.
I want you to run down on the process of detoxification because I think there are a lot of people who try to detoxify, but what they are doing is eliminating the lot of very vital nutrients from the food, and they feel horrible during that time. So can you just run down on this? How to do a successful detoxification?
Is that common in Pakistan? People do detoxification?
They do it for the weight loss purposes. That 7 days detox, and you're doing not even that. Recently, I was reading in some group that a woman was promoting 3 days of fasting, 72 hours of fasting, and she was saying, I lost 8 pounds in 3 days. Of course you lost 8 pounds in 3 days because you have not been eating. So detoxification, and why do we do detoxification, the reasons behind this?
Okay, why me and you would choose to support, I mean, we all detoxify without even trying.
That's a function of our liver and your kidneys, but if you are going for a protocol for the detoxification, what are the reasons for it? How it is benefiting me?
Okay, so there is generally 3 phases of detoxification. Depending on what you have an issue with, which phase will depend on where I would choose to support. So a vital part of detoxification we spoke about earlier, which was the end product of removing of toxins, which is via stool, via sweat, via urine. So that would be considered phase 3. Phase 1 would be essentially collecting the detox or the toxin, binding the toxin, and then deciding on what you're going to do with the toxin. So to make it really, really simple again, imagine that your choice is, I want to go out and collect all of the toxins. Then there is phase 2, which is what is it I'm going to do with it now? And then phase 3 is, okay, it's been excreted.
Okay.
Yeah? So that gives you an idea of 1, 2, and 3. Now what most people do is they will try and push phase 1 detoxification. They will be more aggressive with their approach of detoxification.
That is like collecting of toxins, yeah?
Collecting of toxins. Now if you collect toxins very fast, but you're inefficient to get rid of them, then essentially you can re-release them into the body, into the environment, a toxic criminal who's been in prison for a period of time, and now he becomes a super criminal, worse than when he was initially running around society doing petty crimes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if a person doing a detox, he's on protocol of detox and he's constipated.
The worst thing.
The worst thing, yeah.
The worst thing, because essentially you've sped up the process of collecting toxins, you sped up the process of binding the toxin to another element, which therefore would supercharge it to some degree. But now you've decided, I'm not going to excrete it from the body. I'm constipated. So you may try excrete it through other methods such as urination or such as sweat. Now this is why drinking plenty of water during a detoxification is encouraged. Why? Because it's one format of removing the toxins within the heavily promoted detoxification process. I'm not a fan of it. I'm more of a fan of slowing down detoxification of phase 1.
Reason behind this?
Because if someone is causing petty crimes, I'd much rather just give them a slap on the wrist and say, don't do it again. I don't want to arrest someone who stolen out of his mum's purse, 1,000 rupees one day. I don't want to throw him in prison, because once he is in prison, he's heavily influenced by murderers, big criminals, right? That's the same thought process to when you grab all toxins and then you bind them. You make them more powerful than what they were before. So I'm much more a favor of slow down in phase 1 with most people, and let all of the rest of the phases run fluidly. Now if you go on a detox, typically you will have foods that will speed up phase 1, such as you might choose to, I'm not going to have coffee no more, I'm going to quit smoking now, so that slows down phase 3 also. You may ingest certain chemical products such as supplements. So there's a lot of complications around it. I'm not a fan of it for detoxification. I may be a fan for it for fast weight loss.
Yeah.
Now that might sound contradictory to what a trainer should say. I shouldn't be promoting fast weight loss, because fast weight loss typically is unsustainable, right? If I go on a 3-day fast, can I continue that? The chances are not, right? The chances are not. However, if I was severely overweight, severely obese, severely stressed, and my digestive system was severely screwed, would it make sense for me to fast now?
Yeah.
Maybe so.
It does, yeah.
Maybe so. Or maybe not so much fast, but do something which essentially fasting does, which is reduces the amount of food volume that you burden the digestion with. So I might, instead of fasting, I might just go very low amount of food volume.
For that period of phase.
For sure.
Yeah.
And what food might I choose? Well, if we consider what food typically will help mitigate stress, out of protein, fats and carbs, which one do you think it would be?
Carbs, easy,
Carbs.
yeah, carbs.
And which food is typically the easiest to digest?
High glycemic food.
High glycemic,
High glycemic,
food, carbohydrates.
Yeah.
So this is where essentially you could have food that is high carb, high glycemic, but have it in small amounts, right? Because the goal is to unburden the digestive system and to mitigate the cortisol response. So it's smart now. But if you're doing it because you expect to lose the 8 pounds and keep the 8 pounds off once you go back to eating your normal amount of calories, then that's stupid. You deserve to fail to see how stupid that is, unless they're just uneducated again. And Praveen has told her best friend that she did this 3-day fasting and it worked. Of course it worked. And then when a friend follows her, and of course it's going to work. But is it sustainable? If the goal isn't to have a sustainable weight loss, they may have just wanted to lose 8 pounds for a wedding on the weekend. Fasting for 3 days may have helped then.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the wedding's on Saturday, you've lost 8 pounds. All good. But it's not sustainable. But what was the goal? That's what you got to ask. If the goal is sustainable weight loss, this detoxification of going for a 3-day fast, doing low calorie amounts of food, it's not sustainable. You will not keep it off. So you need to come up with a sustainable nutrition plan, a sustainable training plan, a sustainable way of being, unless the time frame of the goal is not something that needs to be sustainable. I'm getting married in 8 weeks, I need X. Okay, that's fine. That's the goal then. It's the marriage thing. It's not, I'm not thinking about what's sustainable as such now. I'm thinking about how can I get you in shape for your marriage. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So tell me about this detox juices. It's quite popular in Pakistan, and most of the juices are without amino acids.
That's where you hold a big problem. Now you're going to need vitamins and minerals for the detoxification process. You will need that.
Yeah.
The only thing is, without aminos, you're stuck. Or you slow down the process.
What amino does in the detoxification process? What's the role of amino acids?
The aminos work synergistically with whether it be a vitamin or a mineral in order to remove the toxin.
That means the phase 3 of the detoxification process.
The phase 3 will be the removal. Phase 1 and 2 will be the, okay, we've got the toxin. Phase 2 will be bind it. Phase 3 will be remove it. Now, if you don't have aminos, as we mentioned earlier, whether we choose to put that part of the podcast out, where do you get aminos from?
Yeah, that's breaking down the muscle.
I'm going to have to break down my own tissue in order to provide the essential amino acids that I get from food, specifically meat or fish, or a supplementation. I don't mind if you do a detox, providing that your amino acid profile is complete. You have all the aminos that are required for detoxification. Otherwise, it's like trying to do a jigsaw, but you've got pieces missing. It will never be complete, and it'll be fucked up. That's when you start getting the side effects, headaches, nausea. Oh, but I'm detoxing. That's not normal. That should not happen.
Yeah, that explains a lot of questions. So we covered a wide area about health, fitness, weight loss, and a lot of stuff. So we are already running out of time. So I think we'll wrap it up right now.
Sure, man. Thanks.
So any of you guys have any question, please hit me up. Like, comment, and please subscribe. Thank you for your time.
Anytime, man.